Hey guys, what is going on? RedMaster here, and welcome back to the Cards and Castles video. Today, some major news for Cards and Castles. The mid-August 2017 patch has been released a little over a day or two ago, and it's got the community talking. Some big changes and changes we will be talking about indeed, from the good changes to the bad changes. They're really just head-scratching changes, a lot of cover. And so much to talk about. This will be a two-part review for the patch. There are probably just a little over 30 card changes in general. So yeah, definitely going to be splitting this video up into two parts. And so with that being said, we're just going to jump right into our first change. And that first change will be Professor Headwood. Now, Professor Headwood has been a card recently that a lot of players have been clamoring to get changed. His ridiculous stat line, his low cost, and his devastating ability made him an instant addition to any sort of Warlock deck, and really a tough card to play against, seeing as how 2 damage is guaranteed if you are in his very long line of fire. His change, though, has been pretty interesting. His Awaken effect now deals 1 damage to a random enemy, but if reawakened, if re-triggered by another ability, so say Salhorse, Rite of Awakening, it will deal 4 damage instead of the 1. It's a very good change in my opinion. No longer is he an instant addition to every deck. That is basically the target of this, and I think the change did it well to get him out of an auto-include. And it didn't devalue him from his legendary status. Headwood can still be included in Awakened decks, especially since that 4 damage is nothing to joke about. And I probably, in my honest opinion, you might see more Awakening decks pop up because of this, because again, that 4 damage is nothing to laugh about. And there have been some pretty interesting experimentations with Headwood and, mages in general as one deck. Definitely not going to see that deck die anytime soon, and again, probably going to see the possible reemergence of Warlock Pirate Awakening, but, that's just a thought, that's just a theory. But overall, a very good change to Headwood. Again, no longer an auto-include, and has basically brought back some credibility and some value to Awaken decks once again. So, yeah, very good change here. One of our next big changes is the Zealous Knight. Now, the Zealous Knight well, not the change people were expecting or wanting, per se. Zealous Knight has now been reduced to a 2 gold unit. His Holy Aura still is in effect, meaning that it could still heal castles, one of the big main concerns of the card in general. And it is statted now at a 0-3 according to his gold. The gold line. I'm not sure of gender, so don't hate me too much. But what I have to say about Zealous? Well, its main problem of Holy Aura's healing castle was not addressed, and I don't think that problem will be addressed anytime soon. Holy Aura, I think, where it is now is the new sort of norm that they want to push, and I am completely fine with that. I think that Zealous Knight does bring a bit more complexity to a game, seeing as how now sudden death is being avoided by an opposing player. But him at being 0 attack and 3 HP is very good for all the removal options in the game. Him being at 5 gold with the 5 health was not a good sign, especially with the Holy Aura. And now that he has 0 attack, he cannot attack, so in my opinion, he is now becoming a medic, a healer. Not an attacker, but just a simple medic. Now, and like I said, so much more removal options can hit him now. At 3 gold, not 3 gold, at 3 HP and even 0 attack, you have options like Disintegrate, Call of the Weak, things like that, So much more removal options can target Zealous, and that's a very good thing for the card, meaning that it is no longer just this instant, I'm going to throw it down, now no one can touch me because I have Zealous Knight. No, that's not true. More removal is going to have to be included in every deck if you're going to be playing in the more competitive areas, because of course in the competitive areas you'll probably see Zealous Knight. Which, again, the Holy Aura is still a problem, and I do have, I'm on both sides of the fence for this one. But overall, I think this change is alright for now. I'm not going to give it a solid yes. I'm not going to give it a solid no. It's in the middle for me because now Zealous actually has a more defined role again as a medic and not just this straight out unstoppable unit that could heal. So those are my thoughts on Zealous Knight. You can hate me for that. You could not hate me for that. You know, it's tell me about Zealous in the comments below. That's what I'm going to probably say to that. So yeah. I think Zealous was an okay change, and you know, we'll just see where he goes from there. The next card we will be reviewing will be Rite of Awakening. Now, Rite of Awakening has gotten a cost decrease to about 3 gold, and no longer draws the additional card on play. Now, the removal of the draw is fine. I think if you're having this card cost 3, you should have it do one or the other. In this case, it's going to do the Reawakening effect. And I think this is overall another buff to Awaken decks. Seeing as how Headwood got changed to fit more into his Awakened archetype, I think a Rite of Awakening only fuels that further. Seeing as how Headwood, again, is dealing 4 on Reawakening, people are going to want to start playing cards like the Rite of Awakening if they maybe do not have a Salhorse but have a Headwood. And, you know, that combined, this combined with Headwood can prove to be some devastating effects. Even having all 3 of these Awakened cards, Salhorse, Headwood, and Rite of Awakening, could be problematic in the future. We have not seen Awaken thus far reemerge as a deck, but it's certainly not in the realm of impossibility. It is very possible for a deck like this to come up and just start causing mayhem, but as of now, we have not seen that. I won't be surprised if we do see it in the near future, though, seeing as how people are going to want to maybe exploit the Headwood change if that is one of their only legendaries that they are working with. I'm not entirely sure what other people's situations are in terms of card collection. Rite of Awakening overall, very good change, a good buff to Awaken decks, and again, looking for these maybe green-red or purple-red Awaken decks in the near future. The Kraken will be our next card in this patch to look at. Now, Kraken did receive a couple of maybe not nerfs entirely, but he did get toned down quite a bit. He is now base costed at 9 gold rather than 11. Still has the same effect, but is now a 7/7. So you're reducing 3 attack and 3 health off the Kraken and scaling his cost down about 2 gold from 11 to 9. Not bad for the Kraken, but however, this does take away, not entirely, but this does do a bit of toning down on the monster powers. I know there were a couple of monster decks still around that actually utilized the new Voyager, combining that with Kraken, King Kaiju, and that combo still exists. It is still a possibility. However, it is a bit tougher to work with now in a sense, especially since Kraken's biggest spotlight was his 10/10 that appeared for a very low cost. This is no longer the case, however, as the Kraken can, he still has a dramatic effect in a sense. You can still see, must be played in the center tile. However, he's going to be a bit easier to work with when facing him, and he's going to be a bit harder to use when actually using him because of that 7 attack. He's not going to just instantly kill something that you would normally with the Kraken out. But overall, not bad. It's not a complete destruction of Kraken. Kraken is still a good option for the monsters, and can still be a big surprise when played with the Salhorse Voyager. So overall, interesting change to Kraken. Hasn't killed the card, which is good, and still is viable in monster decks, which it should be. So I would say a pretty good change to Kraken overall, and yeah, I think that's all I'm going to have to say on him. Next to go over is the Salhorse Voyager. I did talk about her in the Kraken change, but she actually has received a slight change as well. She no longer reduces the cost by 7. She instead has reduced monster card costs by 6. Now, it's not a complete kill to Voyager. You're still going to see her being played pretty well within monster decks, but now you're going to have to take into account for that cost reduction. No longer 7, so you're not going to be playing turn 5 Voyager King Kaijus. They may be delayed for maybe a turn or 2 more, which is alright. It doesn't, again, you're still getting the power in monster decks. You're still getting that big King Kaiju or Kraken surprise, which is interesting. It definitely makes monsters that much scarier to work with, and you know, it just makes them. It keeps them running strong, which is what monsters should be. These big, bad creatures that can pop out of nowhere and surprise you. So that's my thought on monsters anyway, and I think the Voyager change does well to support that. You know, if you're running monsters, definitely go toward the pirate direction because Voyager will definitely help you. And I think that's basically what they want to push. And although the cost reduction is decreased by 1, so from 7 to 6, it's still a great card, and I still recommend running it in pirates. So, yeah, great change overall, and not much else to say on the Voyager. The next change we'll be looking at is the Dinosaur Nest. It did get a cost increase from 5 gold to 6 gold, and I do have maybe 1 or 2 issues with this change. Now, a lot of people are happy about this, seeing as how Dino Nest can be put off for another turn, and that's alright, but there are some, you know, other more devious ways now to play with Dino Nest. One, the transition from Dino Rider into a Dino Nest can become a real problem. With Dino Rider being at 5 gold and Dino Nest being at 6, it's a very easy transition to play Dino Rider and then immediately right after into a Dino Nest, meaning you have not only a very strong Dino Rider to deal with, but again, those 3 bodies coming out of the nest, which can be problematic. Second, the easier transition into a Dino Evolution for me is a quite a low risk, like, you know, it's a low sort of concern of mine, but it's definitely not out of the realm of impossibility. Being at 5 gold, when you play Dino Nest, you'd have to keep those babies alive for longer turns. You know, alright, how do I get these guys to survive? You know, I don't want to have them die. I have the Dino Nest. But being at 6 gold now, again, it just makes it easier for a Dino Evolution play to happen with all 3 dinos rather than maybe 1 or 2. So those just are my sort of 2 main concerns with Dino Nest. Overall, people are, you know, they don't really, it's a very iffy change, you know. I guess they're excited that it did get addressed, but I don't think in the way that they wanted. So, very mixed reactions on Dino Nest, and I kind of have to feel the same way on this change. Another change we'll be looking at will be Joan of the Dawn Sword. She got a buff. She's now at 8 health rather than 7 health. She did have a sort of dark period over the last, I guess, maybe few seasons. Ever since her change with the new initiative ability, she hasn't really found her place yet. I think it is a matter of time before she does, however. And this health change is an okay direction, but is not the full sort of, alright, now I should really start using Joan VF. She does now survive a T-Rex shot, which is pretty good at 6 gold. Her initiative ability is still somewhat tricky to figure out how to use correctly. But again, probably only a matter of time until that initiative ability is fully utilized. I'm thinking maybe about, I think there are a few ways to deal with him. I haven't actually, you know, wrote that out on paper yet. I do have a couple of theories going around, not just for Joan VF, but a lot of different cards at the moment. So, but she is definitely one of the cards maybe I'll look into in the near future for some interesting deck ideas. So, with that being said, I think the HP change is good for her. Definitely getting closer to, I guess, maybe putting her back where she belongs on top of the night decks. But again, only time will tell if she really can be put in that spot once again. But again, okay change, being put at 8 health. Our next change to address will be the Sentry Golem. Now, the Sentry Golem did get a stat increase from 5 health to 6, and I think this is another positive direction for Awaken decks as a whole. Sentry Golem has been a bit underutilized since his change, since his decrease in movement speed. People have sort of disregarded Golem for that reason, and again, another reason why Awaken decks haven't been as popular as they once was. But now with the stat increase, again, it's only a matter of time before Golem actually does find his way back into Awaken decks, and again, those Awaken decks find their way onto the competitive scene once again. Again, his deflect is nothing too laugh at. It's definitely a problem if you're against it, meaning you only have to use raw power. Only unit attacks should probably phase the Golem. And that stat line is really nothing to laugh at. People look at Dreadmoth and go, wow, that's a big threat. Talk about a reawakened Golem. Now, again, we have not seen Golem used in the competitive scene. It's only going to be a matter of time. That's really all. And I keep emphasizing that. I keep saying this a lot through Sentry Golem's card review. But it is true. It is, in my opinion, something that we should probably be looking out for, especially with the Headwood and the Rite of Awakening changes. Awakening is going to find its way back on top. It's going to get there once again. And I think the stat line change for Golem, a good direction indeed. So overall, Golem change is definitely a good one. The next change will be Grudge Bear. The Grudge Bear did get a stat increase from 5 health to 6 health. Pretty good for the Grudge Bear. I think Grudge Bear has seen a bit more play since the change. People weren't necessarily playing it in Dwarf decks because of the 5/5 stat line. It didn't seem appealing to them, especially with so much better options in 4 gold. But since then, Grudge Bear has seen some more play, some more action in Dwarf decks, and I think overall that's pretty good for him. He definitely needs it. Not much really else to say about this change. I'm excited to see how Grudge Bear will continue from this point forward, and yeah, I think Grudge Bear's health change was definitely a good one. Next up is War Party. War Party has actually, this is the second time in a row that War Party has been changed over patch. It did get decreased to 5, I think, in the last one, and now this one it has been reduced yet again to 3 gold. They're really trying to push the War Party as a usable card. I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. It's not the kind of card that works, especially with how a lot of Rampage units work at this point. It's good for trading and board clearing, yes, but overall, War Party is just not a usable card, in my opinion, especially for any sort of Rampage deck in general. As much as I would like, to say this card had a good change to it, it just seems like a very, it's a bleh change, because the card itself is already bleh. So, yeah. With that being said, not much else to say on the War Party change, since the card is already, in my opinion, a very possibly dead card. The next change we have is actually Bloodlust. Bloodlust actually got a cost decrease to 1 gold, and I think that's pretty good for Bloodlust users. I know that there were a couple of Viking decks utilizing Bloodlust as a rampaging card, especially for mages. But I think now Bloodlust has been elevated. It's a pretty good card. For 1 gold, that's an instant rampage on a 2 movement or less unit, which again goes towards a lot of different range units. So I think overall, a very good change for Bloodlust and a very good change for Viking users. Not much to say on this card though, because personally I haven't used Bloodlust, so I can't speak and be like, oh, Bloodlust is a this change was horrible, this change is great, But where I stand now, I think it's a pretty good change, seeing as how you have a lot of low-costing units in that 2 movement area. Giving them that rampage early game can be pretty important to solidify some control. So, yeah, overall, good change to Bloodlust. The next change we have is School of Knowledge. School of Knowledge did get a reduced cost to 1, as well as a health reduction to 3. School of Knowledge is already a card that hasn't seen much action at all since its inception, and still may not. But, what can I say about School of Knowledge? It's not a very interesting card, especially, even in a style where some decks utilize that early damage and that early aggression. School of Knowledge just can't be played in it, so that definitely tells a lot about this card. I wish it did get a complete restructure as a whole, because it severely needs one as a card. But yeah, this change, it sort of goes along the same lines as War Party. It's an alright change, but it's a very black card, I wish, again, this card would get a restructure soon, because it desperately needs one, but, yeah, that's kind of all I'm going to have to put in for School of Knowledge. Next we have Grimmethal's Command. A very good change in my opinion. Grimmethal's Command did get a cost reduction to 2 gold. Very, very good. Grimmethal's Command have been arguing that this card is a very underutilized card, and in the current ladder, in the current competitive scene that we have seen recently, I think Grimmethal's Command hasn't had a chance to shine yet. But this cost reduction definitely does wonders for the card. Definitely going to hope that it's played more. I've already been playing it. I haven't seen much other players use it though. But I hope this change pushes it in the right direction of getting it to be used more, especially in this time of experimentation post-patch. I know that's a big thing that a lot of people like to do. They like to experiment, especially right after a patch, to see what they can get working and what they can't get working. I hope some people are utilizing Grimmethal's Command at this point. So yeah, very good change, and I can't wait to see where this card goes in the future, especially since I think it's a great card and one that probably might have a chance to shine within the near future. The next change we have is Rusty Hooks. Rusty Hooks did receive a slight buff. It is now at 3 gold, as well as getting his reduced health to 5. That's not really too bad for me. Rusty Hooks is one of those cards that has been a gimmick, but a successful one at that. Hopefully this change prompts more hooks to be thrown into decks. There has been a slow decrease ever since Windy Hook started dying out of popularity. But in this time of 12 HP, a drag mechanic on the castle can be a bit devastating, and one that can be exploited and hopefully played around with, despite being a very interesting gimmick to have on a card. So yeah, not much to say. I haven't seen hooks in action for a while, but hopefully this change does push it a little more into some competitive play. Just because of what we've seen out of the past with Windy Hook decks. So, yeah, pretty good change overall. Next card we have will be Shadow Slip. Shadow Slip was a card that, hasn't seen much action for a while, and I don't think this change pushed it in the right direction. Its cost reduction did get increased to 2 rather than 1, but I don't think that's going to push in the right direction. Shadow Slip has just been a card that has been dormant for a while. It hasn't seen, again, much play, much action to it. And I don't think it's going to with this kind of style of play that's going around now. It's a fun card to mess with your opponent, yes. But, maybe just it's not worth it to me to play this card in a deck. So that tells you a pretty good amount about Shadow Slip as a card. So, with that being said, overall, I find this to be a bland change. Just not one that excites me too much. Wind Mage is one of our cards that are next on this list, and Wind Mage did get a buff to 2 HP rather than 1 HP. Very good change to Wind Mage, and he's actually seen a bit more play within Viking Ninja decks because of this change. People are messing around with some Wind cards, Wind Mage being, of course, one of them. I think he is definitely deserving of some more play, some more action, if you will, and I think this change is a great way to push him back into a competitive spotlight. Now, overall, he's got a good range. I'm gonna leave it at that. He does have a solid attack. I don't know what I was about to talk about with that sort of little pause there. He does have a great attack for where he is gold costed at. If you think about Tarius, he was at 4 gold in 2 attack. So this definitely tells you a good amount about the Wind Mage as an attacker. And yeah, overall, can buy you some defensive time. I think this definitely a great change, and I would be excited to see some more of Wind Mage in the future because of this great change. The next card on our list is Dwarf Paladin. Dwarf Paladin get a health reduction to 5 health, but really not a big change in my opinion. Dwarf Paladin is still going to see some action. He still does see some regular action, be it in heal decks or dwarf decks. He definitely has, not been affected too much by this change, which is good. Dwarf Paladin is a solid 3-drop for Crusaders in general, and I think just him being health reduced is just a little way to make sure that he doesn't stay overpowered in the midst of all these balance changes. So, pretty good change on Paladin. It hasn't been tampered with whatsoever. You know, he has been tampered with, but not to the point of he being unusable, which is good. And I think he's still a pretty strong card, even in this new post-patch time of cards and castles. So, overall, pretty good change to Dwarf Paladin. The next change we have is the Magmasaur. Magmasaur did get a health reduction from 3 to 2, which is great for the card. Magmasaur was a primary troublemaker for dinosaurs in general, and now this health reduction has made him easier to deal with. He's now susceptible to a lot more AoE damages, like blaze, shrapnel, etc. And he does have, you know, that gap, a bit more of a gap actually, between himself being played and Dino Nest. So it gives you more time to deal with him before a Dino Nest comes out. So overall, great change to Magmasaur, and hopefully he could probably be just sticking to Dino decks from now on, rather than have himself and Dino Nest be included in other Warlock decks. The next card we'll be going over is Missionary. Missionary did get a stat reduction from 3-3 to 2-2. Overall, not much to talk about for this change. Missionary was being used primarily in a lot of decks just for the healing aspect, since healing is very hot right now. But overall, because of the stat change, it hasn't really... I haven't really seen Missionary since the patch. I don't know if that's because I haven't seen TV matches with Missionary, or that Missionary's not that good anymore. I do have a belief in the second of the two being more true, of him not being powerful enough now that he's been equaled out for his cost. But yeah, other than that, not much else to talk about for Missionary. I think this was an okay change, an okay to pretty good change for Missionary to really balance him out according to how much he is worth. The next card we have is the Salhorse Spitefish. Spitefish did get a stat increase to 3-3. I think it was 2-4 before, but now it's 3-3. However, his last will damage has been reduced to 1. Alright, change for Salhorse Spitefish. Spitefish wasn't seeing as much play as he used to ever since, you know, his whole 3 gold change. But pretty good. His stats make him more relevant for his cost, and his last will ability has been reduced down, I think, better to accommodate the new 12 HP system. So overall, very good change to Spitefish, and yeah, that's kind of all I have to say for him right now. The final change we do have for you in this part 1 video is the Mischievous Imp change. The Imp did get a stat rearrange from 2-2 to 1-3. Curious to see how the change plays out for Imp as a whole. I'm not sure why this change was or did even happen. Imp has been one of those on and off cards people have, you know, randomly included in their deck because maybe they want the damage, or maybe they want the little body. You know, it's still it's still up in the air. But I think Imp may have gotten a bit stronger because of this now. He does have a little more health, so it can be a bit more of a nuisance, especially in Awaken decks where you could have that Awaken damage reactivate. So I think, again, the Imp may have been a bit confusing at first, but I think, again, also to reinforce Awaken decks as a viability. This, overall, is a big, I think a lot of these changes, especially in this video, have been to reinforce Awaken as a viable option. So, yeah, with I think that being said, I think that covers it up for Mischievous Imp. And with the Imp change, that will just about cover it for part 1. Now, remember, there will be a second part, possibly coming out later today, where I will be reviewing some of the other changes, some of the even possibly bigger changes that I have not talked about in this video, including the big changes to Dremoth and Loremaster, the head-scratching change to Hassan's City Guard, and the possible greed buff. So if you are excited for that in part 2, please make sure to show your support by hitting the like button, share it with your friends, and of course comment down below what you thought of the changes mentioned here in part 1. If you are new to Cards and Castles, please make sure, if you are on Steam or Android, to go into that options button, hit the enter code button, and type in code RedMaster to receive 5 free packs and a castle skin if you haven't already used a promo code. And if you are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. That's the only way you guys need to show your support to the channel, seeing as how subscribe is the actually only way to support the channel. So yeah, with that being said, guys, that just about wraps it for this video. So, until next time, stay gaming.